What is Photography is a portrait and interview series where we talk to as many different people as we could across the photography community and ask them this question of what is photography?
It's really a portrait project is what it is, but to gather the best and brightest minds in the photo business, at least the ones that were available to come, kind of create a little community, with B&H at the center, obviously, or not the center, but at least the organizing factor, and ask them this question, get their responses, organize that together, and then with that, we have a general sense of what photography is at this time and place. I mean, it's a document, that's what it is.
I think a lot of artists working with photography think about this question. I think it's true also of curators, and anybody that's working in the field has to ask themselves, what is photography at some point, to wonder what we're doing, So it's one of these mediums that's kind of constantly evolving, and part of this project too was figuring out where it is today and how that relates to the history of photography.
We had the idea of a portrait series first. We wanted to create some kind of visual content. We do a lot of things about photography. So we wanted to do something that is photography.
We thought, well, who would we make portraits of? Who would people want to see portraits of as our viewers on Explora for B&H? And we thought, of course, people in the photography community.
It came in pieces. Corey wanted to do something with this backdrop company, Oliphant, who makes these incredible handmade backdrops. And then we wanted to do medium format portraiture. So we said, all right, well, we have these two elements. What else? How are we going to make this into something? And that's where it came from.
The question is important to me personally, but also in a broader perspective. So really the project was less about what I think photography is and more about finding out what other people think it is and sort of seeing the breadth of photographic practice today.
When people are with you and they see what's going on, they open up a little bit. And when that happened, usually at the end of a portrait session, we would say, hey, anyone else you might want to recommend for this project? And almost everybody offered 3 or 4 names, and we reached out to them, and if they were available and we felt the work fit and we respected and liked their work, we asked them to be involved. If they agreed, they were in. It was really that simple.
It was important for me as the photographer to come up with some sort of uniformity in the aesthetic with what we were doing. And because we were shooting over the course of several months, of course, one, the lighting's changing, the people are changing. We wanted to make sure that each portrait sort of reflected the person that we were shooting. So there were going to be different portraits. So we had to hold something constant in this project. And what we ended up doing in order to keep some semblance of uniformity is we shot every image in the same location. So we used the Penumbra Foundation's Highlight Studios, which is a natural light studio in Midtown, north-facing light, beautiful light, gorgeous space to shoot in. We got a backdrop from Oliphant Studios, so a hand-painted backdrop that we shot, and we made sure to include that in every single shot. And we also decided to go with a monochrome palette. So we took away the color to sort of simplify things and also to keep the images sort of aesthetically unified.
There's the practical sense that we wanted a definition of photography. And of course, there is no one definition. And people are reluctant to offer something like that, I think, because first of all, who knows? There's so many different definitions. You don't want to get nailed down to any one. I found, some people had an answer right away, and that was incredible. We had Stephen Rosen, who before I even sat down, he goes, well, I have your answer. It's photography is authenticity through artifice. And I thought, wow, that's just the perfect answer. We'll just leave it at that.
We weren't trying to come up with one answer for the project. We wanted to see a diverse group of opinions, and that's what we got. We were a little bit worried going in that we might end up getting the same answer over and over again. That was our fear going into this project, but that absolutely wasn't the case.
Sometimes you have to get people going, you have to get them talking, and we asked about their career, how they started, where they went, and if they had something that seemed to leave a sentence unfinished or a thread not tied, I would kind of push a little bit and say, well, what do you mean by that? I would get to a point where I would say, okay, so what is photography? And sometimes they would enough talking would get the answer out of them.
For me, photography is a way to communicate an idea using the space and the time that's in your surroundings. And that's kind of what we tried to do with this project, with the participants that we brought in.
Photography is a lot of hard work. I think for the sake of this, that would be my answer. Photography is a lot of work.
Hasselblad offered to give us their New York Experience studio for a pop-up event celebrating this project, and what we're trying to do is bring together as many of the participants as we can and show this work in physical form, because of course it'll have a digital form, but we wanted to show it as actual photographs too.
The seed for this was, over the course of the summer, we would have 3 or 4 people per day come in to do the photo sessions. And we would say, oh, yesterday we had so-and-so, or last week we had so-and-so. And we felt it would be great to get all these people in the same room, you know. So let's have some kind of event at the end to celebrate them, to thank the people, and why not make an exhibit out of it? And when Hasselblad offered this space, we said, let's do it, you know, so.
One of my aims since joining Explora, and I think I could say this for John as well, working with B&H's podcast, is expanding our audience and reaching out and creating content that's beyond just gear reviews and tutorials. We wanted to engage with the photography community at large in a much wider sense than we've done in the past. And that was really a motivating force in what we were doing.
B&H is an institution. Let's put ourselves on the level with the other New York and international photo institutions, you know, the ICP, Magnum, MoMA, you know, PhotoCare, for, you know, these places that every photographer knows and wants to be involved with. You know, let us be a part of that conversation all the time. We do a lot of writing about photography, and this is not about photography, this is photography. And we have a content page. Let's fill it with images. Let's fill it with original content. Let's make it something that people are going to want to come to, not just for an article about the latest camera, but about some real interesting photography work. And when we had the opportunity, we took it. That's really what happened here. Because B&H is an institution at this point. I mean, it's a tourist attraction. It's a go-to place for photographers.
Yeah, I think B&H has a responsibility to be a part of the photography community at large. As the professional source, we should be engaging with professionals. We should be engaging with everybody that makes the photography community what it is.
Every now and again, I'll get this response, which is, you know, you guys are just a store. You know, that doesn't have anything to do with the art that we create or the work that we do. And of course, I think that's naive, and people are overlooking, you know, a lot what's going on here. But I thought to myself, all right, let B&H make a voice for itself. Let B&H say, hey, you know, we should be considered an institution with these other places. Obviously, they are. It's a commercial and it's a store. But it's kind of a lot more than a store. I mean, I always think that, you know, a lot of great projects started at B&H. I mean, even if it just meant coming in here and buying, you know, a memory card or whatever it happened to be. Let's remind people that, you know, there's no photo project without a camera.